What is up, guys? Welcome back to another FPL Deadline live stream. Let's get over to the team and let's see how things are going. So, a few asked me about captaincy before the stream started on Twitter. So, let's talk about some captaincy because it's probably not as straightforward as it seems. Salah has like the obvious best matchup if I rule out the Spurs guys because they haven't been that creative recently. So. That's something to consider, but Fulham have kept clean sheets, and they've really defended well. Hold on, let me pull up the chat here. What's up, Brew? How's it going? So considering that Tottenham probably aren't the most creative in terms of I don't feel like I can trust them. Right now, I'm not going to captain Kane or Son. I'm happy with just having both of them, don't get me wrong. But I'm not really set on captaining one of them. What's up, Sultan? How's it going? So Salah is kind of an issue because he blanked last week. But the reason I'm not too worried about that, I suppose, is because West Brom have defended well against big teams, and I think that's all I'm going to put that down to. Salah blanking 2 weeks in a row doesn't happen often. Let's look at Newcastle. Is this Newcastle's last game? Oh, they played Man City. They gave up a lot of expected goals versus Manchester City. That's for sure. And didn't they play? Yeah, I mean, this is a full strength lineup, I would say. So maybe there's some rotation there. You would assume Salah plays 90 minutes again. You never really know. But he did get rested somewhat recently. If anybody gets dropped, I would assume it would be Mane. So predicting rotation this week is not fun, regardless of what you try to do. And yeah, I know my lighting's pretty poor here today, but hey, we'll deal with it. So who got the expected goals for Man City against Newcastle? Not really anybody from the wing position, but Sterling did all right in terms of expected assists. It's just completely different. It's not really even worth looking at, I suppose. But Man City, 3 expected goals. I think Liverpool can match that, and that looks pretty good for Salah. So I think I'm just going to keep it on Salah. I think that's a safe option to go with here. You got your wild card locked in, Sultan. Do you have Spurs players? I guess it depends on your strategy, but it would be interesting right now, how much, if I was wild carding, would I go with Son and Kane? Would I go with none? Would I just go with one? Because last 2 games have not been pretty in terms of their creative ability. They had less than 0.5 expected goals last game, for example. So that's pretty bad. That's not great at all. If you still have Patrick Van Aanholt, I can't say I would keep him. Of course, it's always going to depend on your double game week strategy. So he does play in game week 18 in the blank game week. If that's something that you're into, then for sure keep Patrick Van Aanholt. If not, I don't necessarily think he's the greatest option. Sheffield United matchup would be the way to go. If you can keep him, you want to play him in this matchup. Other than that, he's not the greatest option. This week, you never know. I mean, he's got some attacking threat, but it's not anything too significant compared to probably options that are cheaper. So you're really keeping him for 2 weeks. You're keeping him for game week 17 when they play Sheffield, and then game week 18 if you're gonna not free hit this week. He just has a matchup, right? It's a whatever one, but he does play that week, so he's not a terrible keep. You may have bigger issues. Yeah, what's up, Adam? How's it going? It is a much better deadline to wake up. I checked 3 or 4 times that my alarm was set to AM and not PM. So yeah, how's it going? I wouldn't necessarily do Firmino as a big difference. I mean, Firmino is a differential, but that doesn't mean he's a good option. I would go with Vardy or Kane over him still. Kane hasn't created too many chances or had many big chances, but the fixtures are still there over the next 2. I mean, against Leeds, you would expect Son or Kane to do pretty well. So for me, I don't really like Firmino. I don't think he's a good enough finisher, but he'll get some points. I'm just not too sold on him. Sultan said Son and Kane. Plan at the moment is to shift Kane to Vardy and maybe Rashford to Son. Yeah, that seems fair enough. I mean, it's easy. I mean, I think it makes sense to go all in on the Tottenham guys for the next, really, I mean, 4, depending on your strategy. But the fixtures are too good there, and especially this Leeds matchup, I think it'll be good for Son and Kane if Leeds keep playing the way they have been playing. If you're planning for a double game week, should I get Meslier? I already have Dallas, or should I get Johnston? On free hit, okay. Bench was on 19. Should I get Meslier? Yeah, I think Meslier. Just because you already have Dallas, I would not stray away from Meslier. It's fine to put both your eggs in the Leeds basket because the Leeds basket is safer than the West Brom basket. So I would definitely go with Meslier, actually. I'm just not too interested in West Brom. Yes, West Brom have shown they can defend well, so he's not a terrible option. I don't know. Meslier just gets FPL points recently. And he does have a good matchup, or good matchups here too. Where is it? Brighton and then Southampton both at home. That's not bad, especially the Brighton matchup. That's pretty good. But honestly, with West Brom now, with their manager now, I didn't really consider that. I think you can go with either one. So I think Johnston's like a little bit cheaper. If that makes a big difference, like the 0.1, then maybe you go that way. But hey Penguin, how's it going? Hey Nuclear Adams. Yep. Martinelli at 4.9 is a good option. For me, no. I mean, I just said Firmino. Roberto Firmino. For me, it's. I mean, okay, I get that he's really cheap, but you can't trust him to start every game. And then even when he does start, I'm not really convinced he'll get that many attacking returns. It's not terrible, but assuming that he's probably going to be a bench player most of the time. I mean, I don't know your exact strategy, but I would probably go with a cheaper option like, I don't know, a 4.5 guy that's going to start every week like Anguissa. He's got good fixtures, so I get the enticement, but I just don't. I would never get him personally. I couldn't trust him after playing like a total of 90 minutes in 2 games this season, but who knows? Maybe he becomes a nailed-on starter. A little too early to tell, I guess, especially with Arsenal. So you have McCarthy, Robertson. Okay, yeah, the Soufal Balbuena double up defensively if you're planning for the double game week is very common. I personally talked last stream about how I like their fixtures, and I'm glad I have Soufal, but geez, they have not shown the ability to defend. So although these don't look terrible, like I still expect them to concede in both of these games, right? They're playing Ings and then Calvert-Lewin, and it's like these players are most likely going to score here. And then, but after that, they have some great fixtures. The double game week as well as game week 20, and even beyond further here, it's good. So I just can't make myself get rid of him yet. Adams and Son or Kane and Rafinha. Ooh. So I like Adams over Rafinha, and I guess I like Kane slightly over Son, but for that reason, let's go to Adams. Let's go to Southampton's matchup because I feel like I need to look at these. I know Leeds matchups basically, so Adams has been a solid option throughout. I mean, not too many high scores, but West Ham. I feel like that could be decent for them. It's not the best matchups ever. I assume you already have Bamford. If you don't have Bamford, then do Bamford instead and do that move. But I would be leaning towards I think I'm leaning towards the Adams way. I'm not really a huge fan of Rafinha from an FPL perspective, so that's what I'm gonna go with there. And right now, I am planning on saving my free transfer. I have some moves I could do that I've thought about, but I think next week I'll have more, like it'll make more sense to make these moves next week's. So just looking at the fixtures that my team has, like I'm interested in getting rid of Zuma, but for this matchup, I don't think it's necessarily worth it. Now, I know I have 3 Villa players, but it's sort of insurance if they blank. But after this, I mean, it's Man City blank, which I'm not going to free hit then, so I may transfer him out for who are the players I was looking at? Well, I mean, there's Keane, who plays Sheffield United that week. Like, if I bring Keane in next week, he gets West Ham and then Sheffield United, so it's good. If I bring him in this week, he plays Man City, so I think I'm going to wait in that. He plays West Brom and Wolves, not Sheffield. But I could also bring in, like, Ruben Diaz this week, or John Stones, or Cancelo. So a Man City defender in next week could be the way to go for me personally. In terms of other moves that I could make this week, just looking at this team, and I'm like, I have some bad fixtures. I have Man City here. I have Watkins. I have Grealish, and I have Martinez. So like those four are not great for this week. So I'm like, okay, I could always do this. I could always put Calvert-Lewin on the bench. As I said, I'm not expecting too much from West Ham. I think there's a chance Calvert-Lewin will get benched just because he really hasn't this season, but that's just speculation. So, and he's played 90 minutes just so much. But against Man City, I hate the matchup. So one thing I thought about doing is getting rid of one of these guys, preferably the two defenders here on the bench, and if I could get them to a defender that's going to do well, I can sub them in for Calvert-Lewin. But that move, I'm afraid it just doesn't make too much sense for my entire team. Thoughts on City defenders? I actually quite like them. I like Cancelo and Diaz the most. But, it's funny. I think the three options are pretty much even. Like, Diaz, you trust the most to start. Diaz has established himself, from what I've heard, in the locker room of Man City. He's kind of like a leader, not quite Vincent Kompany, but he's bringing some leadership qualities. That's why he's playing every single game week, and that's why I like him. But then we also have Cancelo with more attacking threat. Not that Diaz hasn't had any, but Cancelo with more attacking threat, a little bit cheaper, a little bit more rotation risk, but basically nailed on. And then we also have Stones, who is a big rotation risk in my opinion, but he's so much cheaper. Like that extra $1 million, you're not really getting that much for the extra $1 million besides more guaranteed minutes. So when I was looking, I was most tempted by Stones and just taking the risk that he starts most weeks. That's the way I was looking at it. But I like them all, honestly. They're all decent options. So which one? KDB and Lamptey to Son and Robbo. KDB and Lamptey to Son and Robbo. Okay, I think that would make sense right off the bat. Mane in a 5-1, 5-4. I would go with the Son matchup just because Son's so much cheaper than Mane. I know, Mane could be a better option than Son, but I'm not convinced he's $2 million worth more than Son. So I think I would go Son because you get Robbo in as well. I think it just makes more sense. So yeah, good luck with that. I would go with the first one. Mane is not always Mane is hard to predict in my opinion as an FPL option. You never really know what he's gonna do. You never know when when Salah is gonna take the points or not. Dallas or Stones to play. Ooh, Stones has a worse matchup, but I don't think you can really trust Leeds defense. Is there anybody else you could bench? Because I think both of those are pretty great options. I would lean towards playing Stones over Dallas. It's too close to call, really, but if I have to pick one, I'll pick Stones. The problem with that is Dallas has more attacking threat, obviously. My transfer this week will be on a Newcastle defender for Game Week 18 at 4.4 under, split between Yedlin and Lewis. Okay, so, I have no idea. I brought in Lewis literally the week before he played 0 minutes. I wouldn't get Lewis. If you're in my position right now, you're looking at a player who's is he ever going to start again? We don't know. It's only been 2 weeks, but so I would rule Lewis out. Yedlin's also a rotation risk, though. 4.4 or under is just tough. And the Newcastle guys are the ones that seem to make the most sense, but I don't know if we can trust them to start every week. I don't know what the deal is with I don't know too much about who their fans expect to play or anything like that. But Yedlin was injured for a while. He's played 290 minutes in a row, so maybe he's just back for good. I would right now, if I had to choose, I would go Yedlin over Lewis. Who knows? But he's played 90 minutes the last two, so who should you start? KWP or Taylor? Kyle Walker-Peters or Taylor? Kyle Walker-Peters or Taylor? So what are the matchups? Southampton versus West Brom and Burnley. Southampton versus West Ham, that is. For me, honestly, it's Taylor all day. They play Sheffield United. That's just like an amazing matchup. You don't really get any better than that. They're both great, though. I mean, if you could start both of them, do it. But West Ham, I mean, they just scored 2 goals versus Brighton. Like, that's not amazing, but that's still pretty solid. Like, scoring 2 goals is fine. Sheffield United, you just have to play. If you play against their defenders, you have to play your players. When will Antonio be fit? I don't know. Bowen subbed off against Brighton. Is he a risky option now? I mean, I said it before. I was never a huge fan of Bowen. I think he spends too much of his energy defensively, and he can get stuck out wide sometimes. He had a couple good games, but it was really like 2 moments against Wolves where he got the goals. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen too much goal threat from him, but so I think he'll play 90 minutes most games, though. In terms of playing time, no, him being subbed off is probably a good thing. They're probably saving his energy for the future, so he's not risky in terms of rotation, in my opinion, but I don't like him as an option. Who would I bench? Grealish, Calvert-Lewin, or Rafinha? Wow. I think I would bench Calvert-Lewin. It sucks to say, but I would take the chance with Calvert-Lewin on the bench. I know he's been great, but Chelsea haven't been amazing defensively. They're still like, who knows with Barkley's back and how that could impact Grealish. And Rafinha just it's too good of a matchup. I know West Brom have been okay, but I don't think I could look at West Brom and sit him on the bench. You got to sell either DCL or Grealish to get in a double game week player. Whom should I get rid of, and whom do I replace it with? Oh, man. It sucks for this week, but I think long-term I'm leaning towards getting rid of Grealish. Now, you possibly have worse alternatives when you do so. Like, getting rid of Calvert-Lewin, it depends on who you have. If you don't have Bamford, then maybe Calvert-Lewin to Bamford makes sense. But I don't know. I still can't sell Calvert-Lewin quite yet. I would be leaning towards Grealish just because, like, the fixtures beforehand, Manchester United, Tottenham, it's really not great. So I would probably, if you're planning on getting rid of both anyway, then I would get rid of Calvert-Lewin first. But if you're only going to get rid of one, I would go ahead and get rid of Grealish. I'm not sure who your best option is here to get in. Double game week guys. Wolves don't have a double game week, but they have a good matchup. So maybe Neto, but that's not what you're looking for. So there's not really any great, at this midfield price here, there's not many options. Maybe Pulisic if you can afford him. Maybe you go down to Rafinha for Leeds. Not a huge fan, but great price. The other obvious option is Souček. Just going all the way down to Souček and getting a lot of money. He's really only a threat in certain situations, but hey, that's what you're paying for. So I would probably go down to a cheap guy like that. Maybe even Lookman, not the best double game week and also not the best team. So he's not impressed me as much recently, but still a solid option. I would probably go with one of those guys. It's a tough decision at that price point, I got to say. I feel like I'm leaving somebody out that's a good option. Like Zaha, maybe good. Oh, he doesn't have a double game week, though. Yeah, I think those are probably your best options. There's not many out there. Considering they're all not great, my advice would be to go pretty cheap there. Start with Souček or Ward-Prowse. Souček or Ward-Prowse. So they're in the same matchup. I'm not a fan of owning Ward-Prowse, but if you have them, I don't know. I think I would probably still go with Souček over Ward-Prowse. I'm not a huge fan of either one. Souček's good value, but I don't know. I would go Souček, actually, I think. Ward-Prowse is really just a threat from set pieces, and I'm just not a huge fan of that. Should I play Kyle Walker-Peters or Soufal? I would play Kyle Walker-Peters. It's really tough, but I think Kyle Walker-Peters is the way to go. Would you play Soufal or Dallas? I would play Dallas. West Brom haven't really attacked well. I know Leeds can't defend, but I would say he has more attacking threat, and you could also say like a better chance of a clean sheet. So for me, it's Dallas. Start Dallas or Stones. For me, it's Stones. Calvert-Lewin be benched? I don't think so, but I'm just saying it's possible. I heard rumors that Everton were going to bench people, but it's probably just nonsense. I think at the same time, I think Ancelotti wants to play him every week, and he wants him to be that true number 9 for the team that's, always there and he can always rely on. So Aubameyang for captain for 2 to 3 weeks? No. I can never trust Aubameyang. Is he healthy? We don't know. He didn't play last week. I don't even know the situation because he's not even an FPL option for me. He costs too much. But if you have him, I get why you would be interested in captaining him, but come on, no, not with Salah out there and Bruno. Is it still worth keeping Chilwell? For at least this week, yeah, I think it's fine. Long term, maybe not. If you're planning to free hit in game week 18, it makes it more viable, but it's fine. It's more of a move to make if you need the money elsewhere because you can go down to a cheaper option that will probably score you similar points. You finally got rid of Mahrez for Suchek last night. Now all that's left is Antonio. Antonio is just sitting there. By this point, you're going to get him back in time when he's fit. So, you're going to be way ahead of the curve, but probably not. Yeah, Mahrez for Suchek, I like it. Like I said, gets all the money in there. Captain Salah or Mane, I would captain Salah every time. Every time that question, I would just always go Salah. I don't know. Mane's a fine option, but I can never just trust him over Salah with penalties. Like, they're so even, and then the penalties is always what's going to be what edges it. Besides that, Salah probably stays in a more advanced position anyway. Didn't really see that last game, though. Which 3 to start out of Robertson, James, I almost said James, like this is game week 4 or something. Dallas, Kyle Walker-Peters, and Sufal. Which 3 to start? So Robertson starts every week for you, no matter what. Or that's at least what I would do. I would start Dallas, good matchup. And then it's between the final 3. I think I would still go with James and trust him because he probably has more attacking threat. If not, Kyle Walker-Peters. I would bench Sufal, though. But Robertson and Dallas for sure. And then it's sort of between James and Kyle Walker-Peters, I would say. But at the end of the day, I think I would pretty much play James every week too. I would trust him enough. You keeping Son plus Kane over double game week players. So yeah, my strategy is probably to not use chips at all. Maybe free. I'm looking at free hitting game week 19 though. So yeah, Son and Kane, I mean, they fit the strategy pretty well because I want them to play this week in game week 18 in the blank. So yeah, they're definite keeps for me. Not only that, but they have great fixtures. So oh, hey, Muhammad, how's it going? Play Sufal or Bowen? I'm going to say, wow. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Bowen, as I said, but I still think I would play him over Sufal this week. I would generally favor the attacker. What's my overall points? But yeah, well, hold on. So Bowen... I don't expect much from either one. I would still go Bowen, though. It's really a coin toss. I can't even answer that, actually. I'm going to take that back. Yeah, just flip a coin. I have no clue. Because you could make the argument that Sufal has almost as much goal or assist threat, and that's what, changed my mind, because he also has the clean sheet potential. So my overall points are, I had, a small red arrow, because I started off at 69K last week, down to 72K, that red arrow doesn't really harm me at all. As long as I didn't have a devastating week, a 3K rank is nothing. Overall points is 943. And in the Beat Block League, only 2 people are managing to do what the title of the league says, and that is Dinesh Kodka and Matt Summerfield. With Olivier Menard is pretty close. So, yeah. A lot of people pretty close, actually, but feel free to join the league. Let's see. So I do have some decisions to make. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to keep it how it is, though. Zuma out is only a future move. I don't really want to get rid of him before this matchup. Villa have showed some games where they can't create well. It probably wouldn't be the worst move, but it would be bringing Stones in. It's tough. Or maybe Zuma also has some goal threat, so it's I'm not desperate to get rid of him. I don't want to get rid of Calvert-Lewin, but I do not want to play him this week. So that would be a move of transferring Lewis out or something. Because as I said, I don't know what the deal is with Lewis, if he's going to keep playing or not. But I don't know if it's worth it to bench Calvert-Lewin. Maybe he has a chance of doing something. Starting Cancelo over Wilson and Sufal. So Wilson should start this week. And Sufal, I mean, yeah, I would start Cancelo. Yeah. What about Lookman as a differential pick for the double game week? I've said before, I like Lookman. I did like Lookman more than Souček in the past, but I think that's sort of changed. I think, I still think Souček is the favorite over Lookman in that price range. But going with like Lookman over Rafinha, for example, makes sense. If you really want a differential for whatever reason, I think Lookman's a solid option, but it's just hard to trust Fulham, and they don't have great matchups in the double game week. So I would probably advise against it, but I have liked him in the past. Bamford for triple captain in game week 19. He is on penalties now. That is a good point, yes. And, that's another move. Before the price rise, I had the chance to do Watkins to Bamford, and I didn't. I mean, I'll probably make a move that gets me money soon. Like, I could easily bring in Bamford next week. It doesn't fit the double game week strategy, but Bamford on penalties is something that I feel like I have to be interested in. Maybe I'll bring him afterwards, but at some point Bamford's going to be in my team, and maybe it'll be next week. I probably won't though, because I'm not too interested in transferring him in ahead of Tottenham, and at this point I may just keep Watkins until they play in the blank game week. So who knows? Captain Kane or Son. I think I would personally go Kane just because of penalties again, but Tottenham are not a team that I think is going to get a lot of penalties. They don't have, just from watching the game, they're not like constantly dribbling through the box. They'll get some, but it's not like Manchester United or like even Man City. Man City don't get as many as I would expect based on like where their touches are at. But geez, Tottenham, I would be surprised if they got, I don't know, I'm going to say 4 more penalties this season. Anything can happen though. Just a dumb defender making a dumb foul. But that's a tough decision. Regarding future strategy, no chance of swapping Kane to Vardy in game week 19. That's a chance. Obviously, after the blank game week where they play, it could make sense. But they do play Sheffield this week, so I'll probably have another move. If I free hit, obviously, then that's not a transfer. And then if I don't free hit, I'll probably have to get rid of somebody else that blanks in game week 18, because I'll be fine with keeping him for Sheffield United. So it'll probably be more like game week 20. And I don't know exactly who Vardy plays that week. Okay, I mean, Everton, Leeds, Fulham. Yeah, game week 20, Kane to Vardy, it seems like something that's very likely to happen, especially if Spurs keep it up the way they are now. You have 2 free transfers, and your move is KDB and Calvert-Lewin to Kane and Son. Any suggestions? It's a bold time to be doubling up on Spurs because of what I just said. They're not necessarily looking amazing. So I'm not sure that's an amazing option, but it seems like a good team. So I think that makes sense, but KDB and Calvert-Lewin are hard to get rid of because you always feel like they can do something. Man City haven't been creating that much recently, and also Calvert-Lewin, man, I don't know about the creativity around him with no Richarlison and no James. So that's a tough one. You played a 3-5-2 with a 4.4 backup cheap striker on the bench, and I'm swapping him with Kane and taking out KDB in the midfield. Yeah, I think I would do Souček over Saka or Smith Rowe. I like Saka as a player. I think Souček's just a little more trustworthy, but Saka probably has higher upside. So definitely don't go Smith Rowe in my opinion, but Saka. What's Saka been doing recently, and how did he actually do? Let's look at Saka here. And there's like 25 minutes left until deadline. He's got good fixtures. He plays in game week 18 if that fits your style. He plays 90 minutes all the time. Let's go to their understat page. This is understat.com. You can look at expected goals and where they shot from and all that good stuff. Let's just take a quick look at Saka because I haven't thought too much about him. And this could be a good option besides Souček for a lot of people potentially. If Arsenal can start scoring some goals again, It would be very nice. Again, by the way, they were outperformed in terms of expected goals, but so just keep that in mind. But Saka. So Saka had 2 shots for only expected goals of 0.11. I don't really know him as a great finisher that's going to finish that kind of thing regularly, so I would say this doesn't look great for him. And 0 expected assists doesn't look great either. But, he's a good player, so that's all I can say. But in terms of quantity of chances and people getting on his crosses, it did not happen last game. Now, keep in mind, Souček's stats aren't great either. We're talking about cheap midfielders here. I think he's a fine option. But he did not look well last game in terms of expected goals and expected assists. Who should I captain, Bruno or Salah? Well, I have both of them, and right now I'm captaining Salah. But it's a tough decision because of what happened last match. But against Wolves, okay, I'm trying to picture how the game's going to go. So Wolves sit deep. That could cause Manchester United some problems. Bruno and Salah both have the ability to just get a penalty. Wolves have actually, I felt like they defended well. I mean, it's easy to defend well against Spurs, I feel like. So I'm going to go back to the game before that. They gave up 2 goals to Burnley. That's just a completely different style of play. 1 goal to Chelsea. I mean, they've actually defended well. I still think I'm leaning towards Salah. Man City haven't been amazing recently, but Newcastle gave up like over 3 expected goals to them. I think Salah is the safer option here, but obviously you can't really go too wrong with Bruno, can you? I mean, I personally love Bruno. Is it worth bench boosting and giving 19? That's actually not a bad bench boost. Like, bench boost is hard to, if you have a chance to use your bench boost, I would generally lean towards using it because it's like, if you don't use it now, you have to like change your whole team if you really want to get a lot of points out of it. I would say that's good enough to use it. Of course, like you say, it does depend on the status of Brewster at the time. But I'd say to use it. Start Sufal or Kyle Walker-Peters. I'm leaning towards Kyle Walker-Peters. I'm doing well, Harvey. My Christmas was pretty good. Yeah, I'm down in South Carolina. It was a long travel down here, but Christmas has been okay. Meanwhile, the fire truck's going by. Dallas or Taylor? For me, it's, oh man, this week's tough. I think, like I said earlier, Taylor, you have to play him this week against Sheffield United. Yeah, that's one of my points that I forgot to mention earlier, Harveen, that it may not be necessarily the best option to make a transfer this week just because everybody's a little more likely to be rotated. Not everybody. Like, Colin Wilson's more likely to play. He has a bad matchup, so that's a bad example, but you get the point. Making a transfer this week, you're more likely to transfer somebody in that doesn't play or that comes off the bench. So it's a slight thing, but it does make me even more confident in not using a transfer at all. So I don't know, that's just something, any time where it's like where the whole FPL game week is more unpredictable, it makes using a transfer slightly less ideal, because you're saying, okay, each transfer has an inherent value, and you're saying, okay, this value is worth it. I'm convinced that this player I'm bringing in is better than player out. And whenever there's uncertainty with both, it's best just to not make a move. I'm not necessarily sure how big of an impact it has this time, but yeah. Hey, Sudanshu, how's it going? Hey, what do you think of Kane and Rafinha for Grealish and Calvert-Lewin? I think it's a solid move. Keep in mind, though, that Spurs haven't been too creative recently, and Grealish and Calvert-Lewin can always perform, though. Like, I'm still keeping Calvert-Lewin for now. Like, it's tough getting rid of good players, but I think getting rid of Grealish is something I'm interested in for sure. Kane, I think, it makes sense to get Kane. Fulham and Leeds, especially the Leeds matchup, I like it. I think it makes sense. It's just tough seeing Grealish and Calvert-Lewin go. Could get some points. Get Robbo and downgrade KDB. If yes, then who? I think that's fine. I think if you're going to downgrade him, either go to Son. If you don't like Son, or if you have Son, You may even go all the way down to like Suchek or maybe Saka. If that doesn't fit your team, though, you could go mid-range. I don't really know who you would get, to be honest. There's not great options, all over the midfield. So if you don't have Son, I would be tempted to get him. Other than that, you may just want to go super cheap. But it depends on who you have also. If you don't have Bruno, get Bruno. So I can't even. What good midfielders are there right now? Like Pulisic is a maybe, but I don't trust any Chelsea player right now. I mean, Zaha isn't bad if he fits your double game week strategy. He's got some okay matchups, also some bad ones. I would probably not go there. I think Neto is a good option, actually. I think he's a good player, which is very important, obviously. Wolves won't score the highest number of goals, but pretty decent fixtures coming up. I think Neto could be the way to go. So those are probably my favorite options. I wouldn't go Bowen or like James Ward-Prowse or anything like that. I think it's more, in terms of the midfield, I'm more worried about which players to avoid and which players to get. Hey, FPL Slum, how's it going? I think Chilwell will start. Yeah, I mean, it's too close to call. I mean, who knows? But I think he's likely to start. They do have good replacements that they could play instead. So it's really, I have no clue. But if I had to choose one or the other, I'm going to say he starts. The best Vestergaard replacement, I would say, depending on your double gaming strategy and all that, it could easily be Dyer or Soufal, or Stones. I think those three are like the way to go. Probably Stones, or maybe like Ruben Diaz or Cancelo if you could afford them. And if you can't even afford Stones, it does get a lot tougher, but you could also go with the Burnley guys. I mean, there's plenty of good options out there. I can't necessarily say one's better than the other. Che Adams or punt on it. Don't ask me that. It's Che Adams. I wouldn't take the risk on Antonio yet. Soufal or Wilson, I think I would go Wilson. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think I would still go Wilson. I know it's Liverpool. Should I start Kyle Walker-Peters over James because James might get subbed early because of injury management, or risk it? So I still think I'm leaning towards James. But either one's not bad. I still think I would just leave James in the lineup. He's on Chelsea versus a Southampton defender. I mean, I would still just trust them more. I know that, I don't know. Trying to predict rotation is hard. I don't think that's necessarily a clear-cut indication that he could, that he'll be subbed early or he won't start, but he'll come on. With defenders, you're more likely to just either play 90 minutes or not play at all. So there's a little less risk there with defenders. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. I would play James. What do you think of my squad? McCarthy, Ryan, Dallas, Soufal, Taylor, Lewis, Mitchell, Salah. So it's a pretty good team. You have a cheap defense. It's fine. It doesn't matter where you spend the money at as long as it gets points. But with Lewis and Mitchell there, you potentially have you run the risk of running out of people that play if you ever need subs. Because who knows if they both play. I would probably, especially with the blank and double game weeks coming up soon, I would probably look for a way to probably upgrade Mitchell to somebody that plays regularly. That would be a move that I would be interested in doing soon. Other than that, I'm fine with the Podence and Rafinha. I actually like Podence over Rafinha. But it's a well-balanced team. That's the only real advice I would say. Look to because you could upgrade Mitchell to maybe, I don't know, Dallas soon if you could get the money from somewhere else, and that would allow you to play him in the double game week. It all depends on your strategy, but yeah, I'm not sure. It's a fine team though. I don't have any complaints about it. No problem, Jake. Hey, how was the holidays been for you? It's been good. Best JWP replacement for the next 5 game weeks. I have 7.3 in the bank, and I already have Grealish, Salah, Bruno, and Suchek. You know, again, this may be a case where you go down to Neto or even all the way down to a 5.0. You already have Suchek, so it's a little tougher, but there's Saka and there's Lookman. I don't know if I could really tell anybody to get those. So there's really nobody here where I'm like, oh, you should get this player. Because of that reason, I would say go cheap if you can. And that's probably the best. That's probably the best advice I can give you. We want that money spent elsewhere at the moment because I don't like any of those options. Rafinha or Harrison, that's a tough one. I still think I would go Rafinha. He gets a high quantity of shots, not necessarily amazing shots, but Harrison has more injury issues, and I think they're both pretty nailed on. I don't think that's an issue, but I would lean towards Harrison. Do you think going without any Spurs attack is a sound strategy? Well, no. Don't go with Bergwijn or Bale. I think it's an okay strategy if you're happy with the players you have now. Like, don't break your team to get apart to get in 1 or 2 players. I typically find it easier just to hope that, especially when it's just one player, you just, like earlier in the season, I had that situation with De Bruyne. Everybody was playing De Bruyne, and it's like super easy matchup. He ended up blanking, but regardless, like, I was like, dang, I'm going to go this week without De Bruyne. And I would have to tear my team apart just to get him in. He ended up blanking, and it worked out, but it's like, even if he would have done well, it isn't necessarily worth, like, just sit there and hope they blank, if you have good players. If you don't, and maybe if you have De Bruyne and you're tempted to get rid of him, I think going him to Son could make sense because I like this Leeds matchup. The Leeds, and then you also get Sheffield United. Fulham's okay for them. I mean, but, it's just tough to call. Are Spurs going to come back and score 3 goals in any game anytime soon? I don't really see it. But Son can provide some pretty good value at his reasonably cheap price, so that's something to keep in mind. But just don't tear your team apart for a couple players is basically what I'm saying. But Son they both could be good options. Any leaked lineups? I haven't seen any, but I haven't been on Twitter, and that's probably gonna be my downfall here because I need to look for some leaked lineups, maybe for the future. Maybe not even necessarily for this matchup right here. So I don't even know how I would find them, but I'm sure we'll be all over Twitter if that is the case. So we've got less than 15 minutes. I'll give this post a like. Okay, I mean, I don't see anything right off the bat. It would probably be recommended to me, within the first page if there was anything crazy. So I'm just going to take the risk that there's nothing crazy going on. I just had to do a quick check. Should I play Struijk or Suchek? I would go with Suchek. I know he has a good matchup, Struijk, but actually, is he going to start for sure? If he's going to start for sure, that makes things a little different. I think they're about pretty even. Both have solid matchups. I don't know. I think I'm still leaning towards Suchek, though. If it was Dallas, I would say Dallas. Like, that's how close it is. If it was Dallas instead of Struijk, or however you say it. Yeah, good luck this game week, Rajat. Target or Chilwell? I would go Chilwell still. I mean, who knows what happens in that game, and who knows who gets played, who knows who starts and who doesn't. I would still just trust Chilwell for now. So now I really have to consider a move that I'm going to make. Again, I'm not really convinced any transfer I make. Like, I'm interested in getting rid of Zuma at some point, even Justin at some point. But I'm like, I don't think this move makes sense this week. Even getting rid of Soufal doesn't make sense long term. Lewis could make sense, but who would I get? I think the only potential move I have here, Watkins to Bamford, I missed because of the price rise, so that's not even a decision for me anymore. But Lewis, I could get somebody in and bench Calvert-Lewin. Does anybody know if Lewis is gonna continue to play? That's my question. I'm just going to search Lewis FPL. Nothing's going to come up because he's not a big player, but you get the point. Lewis FPL. Somebody's got to be talking about it. This guy got rid of Lewis. Somebody brought in Lewis 15 hours ago. Okay, this is the fan I'm looking for. Or this is the post I'm looking for. Okay, so this guy's saying he's been... a Newcastle fan says that Lewis has been poor last couple of games. Looks like he could be dropped based on what that Newcastle fan says. I've seen him before, so I'm somewhat trustworthy of him. So now I have to, he plays in the blank game week, and I brought him in recently, but he may have to go pretty soon. And given that, I can't go Lewis to Stones yet though, and that would be what I would be. That would be what I would be. That's how we talk. That would be what I would be most interested in doing. So who would I get? I mean, they're 4.6. That's nothing. I have nothing to work with. That's right out of the range I need it to be. There's Taylor. Doesn't fit my strategy, but I mean, Sheffield United, Fulham, and then I could even sell after that. I don't want to give myself another transfer though. With these random players, I at least want them to play a blank game week. These really cheap players. I mean, Brighton, I'm not interested in with the fixtures really. West Ham is the same situation as the Burnley guys. Doesn't fit the strategy, but not bad. Should I get in Son and Cancelo in for KDB and Lamptey -4? So Son, Cancelo in, KDB, Lamptey out. I think that makes sense. Just looking right off the bat, I think you're getting two good value players, or Son and Adams in for KDB and Watkins. I would get rid of Lamptey before I get rid of Watkins, to be honest. That's my opinion. And thanks, Lil Uzi, by the way. Even though I'm personally not a fan of your rap music. Lewis to Loughton. Is he going to be a guaranteed starter? Good price. Yeah, he started a lot. I haven't heard his name at all because he hasn't got any attacking threat at all based on his threat and creativity. Yeah, his creativity isn't bad, I suppose. But again, this would just be for the next two, really. And I think I would probably... I know Taylor's a little more expensive. I would probably just go with Taylor over him. Sheffield United, Fulham. So then how many players do I have playing in that game week? So then I have... But is it worth it to bench Calvert-Lewin to play a Burnley defender? Anyway, let's so this week that's what I would do. And let's see, I have how many people does that give me in a double game week? That gives me 1 2. It's funny, I'm like, oh shit, I don't have any players in the blank game week. Then I realized I literally have 6 in this fixture. So 6, 7, and then 7.5. It's just 1 point from Riedewald. It doesn't look great for me, but I still so that 8 can get to 10 pretty easily, or however much I want it to be in the future. I still have weeks to make transfers where I don't feel like this move necessarily impacts my ability to get the amount of blank game week players that I want. So Taylor in may actually be the way to go. I mean, Loughton in is fine as well, but Taylor has just a little more creativity, and I like his crossing ability, to be honest. Pretty good fixtures. Sheffield United, obviously they suck, but they didn't score against Everton. That's not great. They scored 1 goal against Brighton. West Ham just scored 2 on Brighton. And then I benched Calvert-Lewin. Okay, yeah, I was going to look at next week. So next week, I don't want to play Zuma. Justin's in. Dyer's in. I already know that. And then is Sufal in next week? Sufal, so I could play Justin, Dyer, Taylor, and then the rest of the 3-4-3. I could bench Zuma. So it allows me to bench Zuma next week. It allows me to... I still get a decent double game week. I know it doesn't necessarily fit my strategy, but West Ham, Liverpool, not great, but yeah, not great at all actually. And after that, it's not great. It's really a 2-week transfer, maybe 3, including West Ham, Liverpool, same week. So it's a 2-week transfer. That's really short term. I don't have an issue with short term, but I left this way too late to do this. But there's not many great options, so there's not that much to think about. I mean, there's West Ham. It's more long term, but it just completely ignores these next 2 weeks. All right, it's time for an understat check. This is gonna be last second. Lewis to load, nice fixtures, yeah. I feel I'm captaining Salah. I'm sticking with Salah this week. Newcastle give up too many expected goals. Target to Cancelo for -4. Depending on the situation, yeah, I think that makes sense. If you want to be risky, go with Stones. Other than that, I think Cancelo or Diaz is fine. But yeah, Villa have bad fixtures. Getting rid of Target makes sense. Start Souček, Watkins, or Calvert-Lewin. Wow. Only one? Wow. Oh, man. I have no idea. I think right now I would honestly start, and I hate to say this because of my experiences with this man, but I would start Watkins. But that's too close to call, really. I'm not confident. I have zero confidence in that opinion. So just keep that in mind. But I don't know. I feel like they have the best chance to do. I mean, Watkins or Calvert-Lewin are obviously better options than Souček, besides the fixture. So keeping that in mind, I think Aston Villa will score more goals, but I don't know. I don't really see Everton scoring, but if they do, Calvert-Lewin will probably be involved, but that's just such a small chance. So let's look at, let's go to start date. What should we do? Let's do the 9th of December, and let's go expected goals against. Burnley are actually pretty high up there for expected goals against. Now, I think they may have had some tough fixtures. I'm not too sure. Expected goals for. We see the people they play, Sheffield United, way down here. But Fulham are mid-table. Oh, shit. Again, this is a transfer that can kind of wait because I'm okay with playing Calvert-Lewin one more week. I'm just not too sure about it. Long term, Lewis doesn't mean anything, but it's just that I could use this transfer in a different way and maybe get more long-term value out of it. I don't know who that would necessarily be. Zuma down gives me more money. If I do Zuma and Lewis out, then all of a sudden we're looking at 10.1, and then I could do something I don't know. Oh, that's terrible fixtures. Never mind. But I could do something like Keane and a 5 million defender, and that would make this transfer of Lewis to Taylor maybe less reasonable. But who would this other player be? I literally have 2 minutes. There's Kyle Walker-Peters. I'm not too interested. There's Dallas. Dallas could be decent for the double game week in the future. And there's always Keane, too, with decent. But, I'm just going to trust Calvert-Lewin for now. I'm not going to make the late transfer. So there's the team. There's the final team. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just trusting Calvert-Lewin for another week. We'll see what happens. I'm sort of not expecting much from my team this week. I really hope this Spurs double up is what gets me through it, because Watkins, Grealish, Martinez, Calvert-Lewin, I don't like that part of my team right now. But you know what? I'm going to trust Calvert-Lewin. I'm going to trust Calvert-Lewin. Oh, we got a lot of late questions. You guys are late. Bench Chilwell or Zuma? I would bench Zuma. Start Kyle Walker-Peters or Sioux Fall. I would start Kyle Walker-Peters. Start, yeah, that's my team. My team's good. Yeah, I would start Cancelo, Kobe. Yeah, good luck. Good luck, guys. Good luck. The deadline has passed. So, that is indeed the deadline. Let's refresh, and we will have it confirmed that the game is apparently not updated. So you still have a little bit of time. You have like 5 seconds. But you know, I'm not super confident in the team. It is what it is, though. 0 transfers. I get 2 next week. It sets me up well. The one thing I will say about keeping Calvert-Lewin in the team and not getting somebody like Taylor is that, Taylor probably doesn't have the highest upside. So it is what it is. I don't know. It's hard for me to make a final second random transfer like that. Everton have not been creative at all. Calvert-Lewin, it's really terrible, isn't it? But we'll see what happens. Maybe Everton can surprise some people. Salah Burke for I read that like it was serious. Oh my gosh. Alright, so let's see if we can stalk somebody real quick. Last time I looked up blues. Let's go with Adam this time. Is your name Adam FPL? In the Fantasy Premier League site, that is the question. I'm going to assume it is. Yeah, I think you should do Salah to Burke for a -48 hit. I think that's the way to go. The thing about Burke is Burke's got a lot of goal threat and so right after the game week deadline, you can't really check other people's teams, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So that's completely useless. Yeah, Salah to Burke makes sense. The thing about Burke is Burke plays striker for the best team, so really getting Burke in, I mean, we can see here if we go to where's the best team. So the thing about getting Burke, if anybody who didn't get Burke this week is probably pretty dumb. In case you missed it, I got Burke in at the last second. Probably just missed it, but I transferred in Burke, and you can see that he had this shot here. Now, if you don't know much about football, you may not know this, but when you take a shot really close to the goal like this, that means you're really likely to score. And Burke took this shot last game. So therefore Burke's very likely to score. And that's against Everton. And now if we look at this, Everton are probably top 4 in the league right now. So just imagine how many of those shots he's going to get next game. So for me, it's Captain Burke all the way. And if we look here, they say Burke has pretty low expected goals, but they're really underrating Burke. He scores every shot. So for me, it's Burke in. When you consider his finishing ability and he's taking shots from here, I mean, this is so close to the goal. So I think you should get Burke in. I mean, yeah, he's probably the best. I mean, he's cheap too. Fantasy Premier League, they just completely dissed him, but that's just because he got in a fight with the owner of Fantasy Premier League. So yeah, you guys don't know about this, but I'll give you some inside information. Does April Fools come in? Does April Fools come in the season? If so, I'm doing a stream like that. It's not deadline, but it's pretty close. Game week 30. For game week 30, the best option is well, I don't know. I'll probably captain Aubameyang that week against Liverpool. It's an easy matchup. I'm just gonna do that all stream. I wasn't roasting Burke. Burke was a good player. You clearly didn't hear me. You clearly didn't understand anything of what I just said. Burke's a great option, dude. Look at this. I told you. Not McBurney. McBurney's garbage. But Burke, look, he took a shot from right there. That's a goal every time. So, yeah, what's wrong with you? I would never roast Burke. My team for this week is Martinez, Cancelo, Reguilon, Kyle Walker-Peters, Grealish, Bruno, Salah, Rafinha, Bamford, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Kane. Thoughts? So I'm trying to think about what your strategy could be, but that's a good team. Like really, there's no major issues with that team. Reguilon is an interesting one. So not a lot of people have Reguilon. Oh, there's two things I wanted to show. I don't know if it'll show Reguilon's real positioning. I don't know how, but one time Reguilon, he had like a headed chance from the center of the box on like a counterattack. Like this guy is just drifting into the most attacking positions possible. Who knows whether that will translate into actual attacking returns, but sometimes this guy just gets forward like way too much. So he could be worth the price potentially. See, this was one. Yeah, Reguilon had a header from the penalty spot, with like only him and Harry Kane in the box. It was so weird because I was watching the game, wanting Kane to score, and I saw, and I was like, "Is that Kane?" But I was like, "No, that's Reguilon." Like, so he does get forward a lot. He had these two shots right here. Did he have anyone? I'm sure he probably did something else, but he had two shots last game. I mean, I like him, but when it's just 0.7 cheaper, you could go for Eric Dyer. So he's an interesting one, but I like the team overall. Yeah. I mean, he's not as good as option as Burke, but that's well established at this point. Yeah. Rafinha's an interesting one too. Quantity of shots, but this is crazy. I didn't realize this, but just going to the Aston Villa game, first of all, their expected goals were off the charts for Aston Villa. And considering they got a red card, Crystal Palace should be embarrassed, but just look at all these shots Aston Villa had. You want to know how many shots my player had? Oh, I'm sorting my goals. I can't. Oh yeah, shots. Ollie Watkins took 10 shots. Now that may be the highest I've seen in any game so far this season. Now amount of shots doesn't mean they're good shots, but he had great shots. He had an expected goals of 1.94. That is absolutely way too high for one game. Like Crystal Palace are not good right now. That is insane. And keep in mind, he still didn't score. I would love to have Vardy this week, but I'm not getting rid of Kane before Fulham at home. So that's never really even been on the table. But Crystal Palace have looked very, very poor. Obviously 7-0 and now 3-0 to Liverpool. That's not good. But Watkins took 10 shots. 10 shots. That's very much. We see he hit the post from a 0.48 expected goal shot. It's funny. He got his 3 assists from like 0.47 expected assists. Like that's pretty lucky. It was actually very lucky. Again, Watkins with a big chance here. Watkins with just shots all over the place. There's another Watkins shot. Like if you go to most of these, I mean they just took so many shots, but there's another Watkins shot. There's like these are even hard to even manage. But did Watkins hit the post twice? Or did I already go over that one? I guess I must have already went over that one. I mean, he's getting shots inside the 6 and missing. He's getting a lot of just random headers that don't really mean a lot, though. But he did have some big chances. Firmino is like... somebody I know brought in Firmino and captained him, and I'm like, wow, like it doesn't seem like a terrible move, but it's like I don't know. I don't think most people in the FPL community would really do that. Like, I don't know. It's just not common. It's not necessarily bad though, but 9 million for Firmino is a lot for somebody that's not really like. As I always say, Firmino. The issue I have with from players like Firmino, and Firmino is probably the best example of this is. he can walk away from a game feeling like, oh yeah, I had a good game, without getting any FPL points for us. And the thing that's not good about that is that he's a striker, and that pretty much no other striker would have that mentality. Like Calvert-Lewin, the chances of him walking away from a game, be like, yeah, I did very well, without scoring a goal or getting an assist, is very low. And that's what you want from an FPL player. You want their whole goal of the game to get you FPL points. Obviously, that's not why they want to get a goal and an assist, but they still want to get a goal and an assist, and that gets us points. So, yeah, Matthew, I mean, that makes sense. Obviously, it depends on what Robbo and Trent do, but this is not breaking news here. They do have some good matchups, Liverpool, so it's not bad, but Reguilon, I mean, if Spurs can score goals, he's going to be involved creating some of these chances. And Cancelo, I'm not completely sold on his creative ability. I mean, he can create, but in terms of getting assists, I don't know, man. They don't have the great fixture next week, but I don't know. Trent looked better last week. Trent got forward a little more, a little more overlapping, a little crosses from a little better position. He impressed me more than he has in the past game week. So I feel like Trent wasn't bad. Robertson, of course, he's been doing that all season, not quite getting the points. They're fine options, but I can't necessarily disagree with you. Yeah, I mean, Firmino the good thing about captaining Firmino last week is that like De Bruyne and Salah blanked as well, so it didn't really hurt you too bad. Like last week was so frustrating because if only I would have captained somebody better, it's a definite green arrow. Because oh yeah, the game's being updated. I messed that up, but it was a definite green arrow because I got a tiny red arrow with my captain blanking. If I somehow would have thought to captain Bruno, it would have been very nice, but obviously that's not how things work. Yeah, Firmino does have some nice teeth. I believe that's because his agent is also a dentist, so and you can look that up. I believe that's actually true. Firmino, agent, dentist. See, it comes up. He was a dental surgeon at Firmino's local club in Brazil, and he threw away his dental tools and became his agent. I don't know if he actually threw away the dental tools, but he did become Firmino's agent as starting off as a dentist. So, but Firmino's a great player. I like watching him play. It doesn't translate to FPL points though. So just looking at some stats, let's go December 9th until now. And let's sort by expected goals per 90 minutes. Let's see who's been doing the best. So Aguero's played 24 minutes. He doesn't count. Most of these people on the first page don't count. But El Ghazi, that's insane. His expected goals is crazy. And obviously there's some penalties in there, but it doesn't matter. So that's somebody I forgot to mention. El Ghazi. He's a little bit too much of a rotation risk, though, for the people that were asking about midfielders. So I don't know if I could trust him completely, but he's probably a better option than, he's I would get him over, I don't know, Bowen or somebody like that, but he's kind of, he's still risky because he could lose his place, and you may have other Villa options anyway. Lacazette's up there. He's played a lot of minutes. Lacazette's done well. Minamino hasn't played that much, but a little bit. Obviously, Vardy's up there. Vardy's somebody I want soon. Like I said, game week 20. That's kind of soon, I guess. Tammy Abraham. Of course, I like Tammy Abraham. He's outperformed his XG over the past 4 games. He's done well. Let me actually change this date. And let me go to last couple of weeks. Yeah, okay. That's one thing I will say, Blues. Making wildcard videos on YouTube is it's a great way to get views. I personally, it probably would be beneficial for me personally to like do like that's why you see some people do here's my wildcard draft if I wildcard this week. I think there's some people that do that every single week, and I personally don't do that. I feel like it will be too repetitive. I don't think I would necessarily enjoy doing it, but wildcard is a great word to search because like obviously there's a lot of people like me who don't make wildcard videos every week, but when people do have a wildcard, like viewers, they search it. So considering that not everybody's always making that content, but people are always searching for it, yeah, it's a great way. Like wildcard videos are always the best. They're always like, if you're doing your wildcard, you always want to make one or two videos about that. But sometimes I have found that if you post your video late in the week, it can only get so many views because there's not as much time for people to watch it, obviously, like because the deadline's soon. But the one good thing about it is because it's like the day before the deadline, like a lot of people are searching. So if you post it at a good time, it'll get a lot of views right away, and then the algorithm is like, okay, this video is doing well, I'm going to recommend it to more people. So it can almost catch up to like a video that you post like a couple of days earlier, just because like if it gets recommended more. It's kind of risky to do that. Obviously in this case it's different because it's such a late deadline. There's not much time in between the 2 game weeks, but yeah, wildcard videos do well. So expected goals over the past 2 games, for some people it's going to be 1, but it's a very small sample size. But of course we got Bamford in here. He's got a lot of chances, and Tammy Abraham's still in there. Who's done the best though? Well, Yossi Perez has done the best in his 8 minutes, and of course El Ghazi is up there. But look at this, Mr. Bruno Fernandes, absolutely amazing because of that Leeds game. Like Leeds just get killed so much, but here's the man, Ollie Watkins, absolutely insane. Basically all of this is from 1 game. That's the nature of Watkins, I suppose, having really, really big games and then doing nothing for a while. So hopefully that's the case this time. So the Crystal Palace and Leicester game starts at 10. I'll just stream until the lineup is announced, I suppose, because that'll be pretty interesting. I personally hope Vardy's rested, but I doubt it will happen. You never really know though. So that's a great matchup though, Crystal Palace. I have Justin, so I'm somewhat looking forward to it. I'm like, all right, I can get an attacking return here. Justin gets forward a lot, so I'm kind of happy with it. I'm going to be watching this game. Like I have literally 4 players in this game. Chelsea, Aston Villa. I mean, I'm going to be watching every game today, but yeah, just having 3 Aston Villa players always makes me feel weird. It's like, why do I have 3 of them? It's really just because they're good value, and I don't really care. Like as long as they're good value, as long as I think Watkins is better value than the other forwards, and the same with all the other players. Like if I end up with 3 of one team, I end up with 3 of one team. Doesn't matter. Last season your content was great, especially the pick that you make, especially Wolves double up. Yeah, well, I'm glad you remember that. So yeah, I at the end of last season I had double Liverpool and double Wolves defense, and it worked pretty well for a while. Eventually I had to get rid of some of them, but yeah, double Wolves especially, it was amazing. El Ghazi is a good option. El Ghazi scores. He's gotten a lot of expected goals over the past couple of games. He's gotten a lot of chances, that's for sure. And for that reason, he is a good option. There could be some rotation risk there, and that would be my only real warning. But he's high upside. Penalties, a lot of expected goals. I think he's a good option. Arsenal is the one that surprised me the most, but why Lampard don't use Giroud, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, but it's Abraham. I like Abraham. I don't think playing Abraham over Giroud is that crazy, but it's got to be weird for Giroud because he probably views himself as like a world-class player, like considering he won the World Cup, and I actually love both of their strikers. That's probably like Giroud. I've always liked Giroud, and Abraham. I liked him recently. The thing that first made me like Abraham was last season. I actually started off pretty poorly, but he was my first transfer that was really good. I got him in pretty early, like before most people were really thought that he was nailed on. I was like, you know what? I think he's nailed on. I'm gonna go with him. And then he got, ever since then, like that was when he scored like a goal. No, he scored like 2 goals and then a hat trick and then like 2 goals or whatever it was. That was an amazing transfer. But yeah, Harvey, back to what you said, like in terms of my last season content, like besides like graphics and all that, like in terms of how my season went, I started off very poorly. I mean, not very poorly, but I felt like I made a lot of bad decisions. I felt like the team I started off with was weird. I started off with a 5 at the back team. It worked out well game week 1. It was okay. Like game week 10, I was ranked 1 million. So it wasn't too bad. Like that's salvageable. It was just so much worse than my previous season that it felt terrible. But after that, from being ranked 1 million and then finishing, I didn't have the best restart either. Like going into restart, I was at like 14K, which is where I ended up. So from that run, from game week 10 all the way up until restart, like that was crazy. Like the green arrow, I think I got 13 or 14 green arrows in a row. Like it was just so consistent. I don't know how that happened. Like green arrows in a row doesn't even necessarily mean anything. Like if they're all tiny green arrows, it doesn't really matter. But it was ridiculous. The chances of that happening, like given the luck in the game and everything, pretty small. But I felt I had a good team, and I just kept rolling it out there every week. Hopefully Frank makes big changes for the Villa game. Oh man. I'd personally start Pulisic, Werner, and Odoi with Kovacic, Conte, and Havertz in the middle. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they can do a lot of lineups that work pretty well. I'm not a huge fan of Werner, though. Like, just as players, I like Giroud and Abraham over Werner. I don't know. He's never really impressed me, to be honest, but, like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the goals he got at the Bundesliga were just... Goal is a goal. I'm never going to hate on a type of goal, so I won't even say that, actually, but I don't know. But I mean, I love Pulisic. I think Odoi is good. Kovacic is, he's perfectly fine. The one I would have an issue with in that team would be Havertz in the middle. That's probably the one I'm like, I don't know if I would do that, but that's still a good team. I wouldn't say. I mean, I'm not a Chelsea fan, but I like to watch Abraham and Giroud, so I personally wouldn't. But I don't, I want him to just play a terrible team. I have 3 Aston Villa players, so if I'm free hitting in Game Week 18, when's the last time I can use a free transfer? So it's just for that week you can't. So let's say, obviously the game's still updating, I assume. So the game's still updating, but so next week is Game Week 17. So let's say I'm looking at my Game Week 17 team, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a transfer and then free hit so I can keep that transfer. It doesn't work. You can't do that in the same week. You can't make a transfer and then free hit. When you play the free hit, it'll cancel out any transfers you've made for that week. And in Game Week 18, in this example, my team would revert back to the team that I started Game Week 17 with, if that makes any sense. But you can make a free transfer the week before, and it doesn't impact anything. That will still be saved, but it's not a time thing, necessarily. It's just all based on game week deadlines. Romeu worth keeping for the double game week, or get Souček instead. I'm in a similar situation with Lewis, I suppose. Yours is actually probably a better situation to be in. So basically, you're like, oh, okay, it's different, but I would probably, if you can, I think that's an important transfer to make if you can do it. As long as you don't feel like it tears up your team structure, because I know like you'd be spending more money then, and it'll probably just be on the bench anyway. But that's some major goal threat improvement there, even if it is for 2 weeks. Like Souček over Romeo is a big deal. So I'm personally a fan, given that West Ham have good fixtures. So I think that makes sense. I would try to make that move, like, that week going into the game week. I think that makes sense to do, yeah. But I don't think it's an issue right away. Yeah, I would say you're right, Harvey. I don't know if anybody can beat anybody because, like, nobody can really beat Sheffield United, especially with players like Burke. But besides that, like, pretty much anybody can beat anybody. So this is the last 4 or 5 games. Expected goals. Man City have actually done pretty well, but they've also had some bad games in there. But Liverpool, they're doing well, but it's not quite, like, it's not dominant. It's not really good enough for Salah, Mane, and Firmino to all, like, get a lot of points consistently, I would say. For 2 people, maybe, if they get a high percentage, but not for 3, I would say. But look at where Tottenham are over the past 5. Keep in mind, on this list, we have Newcastle that have only played 4, and Aston Villa that have only played 4, given the date. So Aston Villa being 5th, only playing 4 games, they're really like 1st or 2nd. In fact, based on, so they've got 10 and 4, so that's over 2 per game. Yeah, based on this, is that right? Right, yeah. So Aston Villa over the past, couple of game weeks, Aston Villa should be 1st if they maintain that pace. Aston Villa are 1st and Chelsea are 2nd. And Newcastle down here aren't this bad, but West Brom, I mean, this is crazy. Like, it's different just to not finish goals, but to not get chances. They've actually finished well, but 2.13 expected goals over the past 5 games is very bad. And obviously Sheffield United are, not doing great. But Tottenham, this is just bad. This has to improve, and that's why I'm worried about having Son and Kane. And they really need Fulham to be a good matchup today. Like, it's not going to be great. I'm not convinced they'll do that well today, but we'll see. I'm hoping for the best. Eventually they'll have a good game, right? They have to, but they're just so far down there. Expected goals against, I pointed this out before I captained Bruno that one week when they play Leeds. It was the thing that made the decision for me. This Leeds expected goals against, it's way too high. Like, they're killing the next team. You see how all these teams are close? They're like, oh, 9, 9, 9, 8, 8, 7. We got a 14 up here. Like, Leeds, in the past month, Leeds have just been giving up so many chances. So, Leeds this week, Leeds are just a good matchup. And they play West Brom this week, so it's wasted. It's just a wasted good matchup. Nobody has West Brom. And West Brom aren't going to score anyway, as I just pointed out. But they probably will at some point. But next week, Spurs play Leeds. So I can't, that's too good. Surely Son and Kane bounce back in that game week. So I know it's not this week, but next week. It's still a good enough reason for me to keep Son and Kane if there already wasn't enough reasons on their own. Let's get ready for the Leicester lineup. I have a Leicester player, so I'm more interested in that than the Crystal Palace one. Justin should start, but he's just played so much. We don't really know. Rotation is kind of overrated. Like, a lot of times people think there's going to be a rotation, and then there's not. So I'm not expecting too much, I suppose. Should you start Vardy or Rodrigo? Well, the deadline has already passed. So, unfortunately, I hope that's a joke. Because you obviously start Vardy. I can't believe I answered that seriously. Oh, my gosh. You always start Vardy, though. Always start Vardy. That's what I would do. So if I'm free hitting in Game Week 18, can I use the 2 free transfers in Game Week 17? Would the transfers stay for Game Week 19? Thanks. So, yeah, you can do that, Hoxton. You can do that, Hoxton. Yeah, I mean, you just have to hope Vardy plays. Like, you always play Vardy, but it's not guaranteed this week. It's kind of unfortunate if he doesn't, but it's hard to predict. Like, just hope for the best. But if you have a player like Vardy, I think you play him every week because he can do well in any matchup. Leicester are a good enough team where they can combat good fixtures. Vardy's got counterattack potential and the random penalties. It's just he's too good to never. I would never bench Vardy if I had him. I hope Manchester United can sign a proper defender in January. Then the title change charges on for. So the Leicester team. Oh shit, it's not loading. Hope Man United can sign a proper defender in January. I mean, yeah, that's fair enough. Maguire's slow. He's a liability, but here's the team. So Justin does start. You know what? I'm very sorry, Glody, but I have to celebrate this. Vardy is not starting. That is absolutely beautiful. That is so great. But we've seen him come off the... I mean, this is Crystal Palace we're talking about. We've seen him come off the bench and score, and he is on the bench. So, will he probably come in? I mean, maybe. If they're up 3-0, will they put him in? I don't know. But Vardy on the bench, that is some big news we're talking about here for a lot of people. Because Vardy, if I had Vardy, I would have been tempted to captain him. I probably wouldn't have because of this reason, but Vardy is officially benched, and we could be seeing some returns from Barnes and Iheanacho. I'm probably blocking part of the lineup, but it's Schmeichel, Justin, Amartey, Evans, Thomas, Mendy, Choudhury, Prayet, Perez, Barnes, and Iheanacho. So, I mean, not really the best matchup. Crystal Palace maybe aren't that bad this time around. Zaha or Click? For me, it's Zaha. I don't really have to think about that because Click's off penalties, right? So, Click, in my opinion, has nothing. I know Zaha costs more, but Zaha all day for me. Oh, Riedewald's starting. This is probably just rotation, so I probably shouldn't get too excited. But Riedewald starting does look promising for the future. But yeah, Vardy benched is that's so beautiful. But hey, Riedewald starting for me. That's good. Not that I'm playing him, but who knows? Maybe he does well again. I mean, he typically does pretty well, I think. But whatever. They even put him as the photo. The admin wants him to play too. Zaha starts. That's probably the biggest news. Eze's benched. That's kind of news. Ayu's benched. Ward's benched. Van Aanholt's benched again. Wow. Not again. Oh, Mitchell starts. I just now noticed that a lot of people have him. That'll be interesting. Zaha, Benteke again. So not anything too huge in there, but the Vardy benching. That's what I'm talking about. Arvine. Schmeichel's probably a little too expensive, by the way, in my opinion. If you said your goalkeeper Schmeichel, I think he's a little too expensive. I would go with somebody else. I don't know if that's what you're asking, but I would go with Zaha, and I would also, in the future, I would look to get rid of Schmeichel. Goalkeeper Martinez, defense Ayling, Schilt, Dyer, Mane, Salah, Bowen, Son. So I like the team besides Rodrigo and Bowen. Other than that, Rodrigo has good fixtures. Bowen has some good fixtures too. So fair enough. But me personally, I don't necessarily think they're great options. But they're pretty cheap. Bowen's probably got cheaper alternatives that are better in my opinion. But even Souček probably better value. But that's a good team. The Mane and Salah combo for this fixture should be pretty good. Yeah. And Son this week. And Bruno. I mean, that's a good midfield. It's a good team. I didn't respond to everybody's messages because I was deadline streaming. But yeah, this leads. It's amazing. And the big news is that Vardy, Mr. Jamie Vardy, one of my favorite players, is benched. And that is good for me, so I will celebrate it. So how are they going to play here? I think this actually... Okay, wait, hold on. Is this a 4 at the back again? I mean, I guess Mendy could go either way. but it looks like a 4 at the back to me. It looks like Marty and Evans are the center backs, Justin a right back, and then these two in midfield. Probably 4-3-3, something like that. It's not how they tend to play, so it's probably like a 4-5-1 is probably how they would label it. With the Iheanacho lone striker, Perez right, Barnes left. You got these three in the center, left back, center back, right back. Which isn't great for Justin, which is the reason I say that. Whenever they play like with the wing backs and Justin is that wing back, that's when I really like having Justin. But oh well, I'll take the likely clean sheet here. I'm not gonna say likely, but the probable, not probable either, means the same thing. So I'm gonna say the good chance of a clean sheet because that's more relative to other players that have clean sheet. Because typically clean sheets are not like, oh, they have like a 75% chance of keeping a clean sheet. Typically, it's more like 50 or 60. At least that's like what the bookies say. I don't ever really look at bookie odds to make my decisions, by the way. Like, I don't think it's, I don't know. It's just not for me. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, good luck, Harveen. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Burke's really too good not to own at this point. So like if you're just joining, of course, you should definitely have Burke at this point. And that's what the goal is here. It's for people that are just joining to understand that Burke is probably the best player. And really you should have a triple up on Sheffield United, but that's a whole nother story. I mean, honestly, we're messing around, but over the past 104 minutes, Burke actually does have pretty good expected stats. So 0.41 expected goals per 90 and 0.38 expected assists per 90 minutes is really good for a player at his price. Now, he's not going to play consistently and all this good stuff, but I mean, just for comparison, let's just type in, I think he's like a player, I don't know, I've heard people mention him, but Burke has what, 0.14 expected goals per 90 minutes, more than this guy named Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah, whoever like I've heard people talk about him. Burke obviously defeats him pretty easily in terms of expected goals per 90 minutes. And this is the things you can do with stats, by the way. If you really want to look at stats, like this is the past two games. So, and past two games is really what you want to look at. So, and if we go to, I don't know, who's a good option? Let's go to Mohamed Salah. Let's see how he compares. So 0.41 expected goals per 90 minutes for Burke and this guy named Mohamed Salah. But of course, Burke gets him with expected assists. So over the past two game weeks, Burke he's been unlucky not to score. Same expected goals as Salah and better than De Bruyne. So yeah. Real talismanic approach to the Sheffield United team. The only time I use bookie odds is when I have two goalkeepers. Yeah, I mean, that's honestly not a bad way to use it. There's not many variables to take into account there. But the thing about bookie odds is this, like, betting odds are placed so that, like, the gambling sites or whatever it may be, they simply want even number of bets on both sides. So if 50% of people bet for Leicester and 50% of people bet on Crystal Palace to win, let's say that's the bet, then the casino is guaranteed to make money because when they take the tax out, that's where they get their money. They don't get the money from like, oh, everybody bet for Crystal Palace and then Leicester won. Like, that's not how they do that. So as long as things are bet evenly, then they make money. So the bookie odds, there is some expertise in when they're making them, but the expertise is set so that people bet evenly on them. So it's really more a reflection of public opinion. It's a reflection of, okay, this is the odds of what people are betting on. But it's not like it's necessarily expertise in terms of, oh, my tactical analysis showed me that Leicester are, 70% chance of winning the game. It's just, let's get people to bet evenly on both sides. Now, there does come into play some different things. Like, I guess casinos sometimes, like, take a risk and basically, but once they start doing that, they're the ones that are gambling. And, then they're more likely to lose their money. But because like with internet betting, I assume sometimes they also want to like have better odds in the competition, like for something that everybody's betting on. But I'm not too sure that would be effective. But you do see different odds a lot of times all over the place. But I think that's where like more of the actual analysis comes into play in terms of who they think is going to win. But in general, that's not how they do it. So that's why I don't really typically look at bookie odds. I'd rather just not. I'd rather just look at the stats and everything like that. It's not too important to me. Anyway, yeah. I'm gonna end the stream there for now. Who knows? Maybe I'll like pop back on a stream later, but that would only be during the game. So I wouldn't count on it. But let's see. When is the next deadline? The next deadline is oh shit, I forgot the games. The game is updating, so that's not good. But whenever the next deadline is, I will be streaming then. And thank you for joining me, guys. And I will have to see you next time. Good luck this game week, and just remember that Burke is better than De Bruyne.